Barry? Testing, 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 testing.
It's back at some good time. Every little. Change batteries in. Theater. We change them every show, even if they're brand new.
Testing, 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 testing.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Your volume will leave.
Try that.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Nice work, then.
Why is it so low? He says open up there.
I could pump it up there. Joel, could you speak?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, testing. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts and joy, the minds,
Joel, could you speak?
truth. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, testing. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing. Open our hearts and joy, the minds. I hear it a little better.
Testing, 1, 2, testing. Testing, 1, 2. Oh, say shalom bimromav. Ooh, yeah, I say shalom aleinu. What's that noise? Better than it was. What's that background? That like that hissing.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Tired.
Yeah.
I decided I can't work and come here, it's too hard, so I'm just gonna take it off, for now. I have lines on Wednesday, lines on Thursday, and then this, so it's, plus you have to just, that you can find someone to replace you. You have to take it off. I'm tired. It's a long drive. You know what, you come from
Where are you working?
Whole Foods and Dedham.
Denim. Okay. Wow.
Delivery.
And there's no Whole Foods like openings down in Providence or in Cranston?
Well, I shop it, because I live in Providence, so I shop on North Main, and there's.
Right, but there's no openings there that you can transfer to?
There's no alcohol board out in the supermarket.
Oh, it's oh, okay.
It's against the law.
Oh, so you
I
work.
work in a liquor store, but I, for some reason, just found that place.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you did the alcohol.
Yeah, I've been a wine guy since '84.
Oh, okay.
Done all, Gallows, Thomas Vineyards, Newport Vineyards, distributor. This is my last stop. Part-time.
Is there another? Erev Tov and Shabbat Shalom, everybody. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat. Shabbat Shalom to everybody who's here in our sanctuary and who are out in TV land, in the live stream universe. I hope our time together is meaningful and filled with spirituality and friendship and love. And let us begin at the bottom of page 180, singing Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yam da 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 da, yam da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. On page 121 is our candle lighting. And do I have a volunteer who would like to light the candles this evening? Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chayei pnei shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who powers us with mitzvah, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. So after we light the candles, we often feel a sense of inner calm and peacefulness. Now, the Babylonian Talmud remarks that God said to the people of Israel, I have a great gift in my treasury. Shabbat is its name, which I give to you, Israel. So we offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope. For Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living. For Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness. And for Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love, we offer thanks and blessing, O God. Our Kabbalat Shabbat begins on page 130 with the singing of Lechuna Ranana, but we're going to do Lechuna Ranana and Yismechu Hashamayim and Ramamu, all one right after the other. So it's pages 130, 131, and 135. Lechuneranina, lechuneranina, lechuneranina ladonai. Lechuneranina, lechuneranina, lechuneranina ladonai. Naria, naria, litzori shenu nikadma fana bitoda. Naria, naria, l'sor lishenu bizmirot naria lo. Lechuneranina, lechuneranina, lechuneranina ladonai. Lechuneranina, lechuneranina, lechuneranina ladonai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehad kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehad kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehad kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehad kodsho. Excellent. I actually heard you repeating after me. It was wonderful. On page 138, Lecha Dodi is a poem composed by the 16th century Kabbalist Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz. And the first letter of each of the first 8 verses actually spells his name. So join me in Lecha Dodi.
Hey, Joel, we figured out which one it was, and I and I'll join in.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ותהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומי אורי, אורי, אורי. שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. On page 140 is Psalm 92. And Psalm 92 was sung by the Levites in the ancient temple. The rabbis thought that the words referred to the future, a time when every day would be like Shabbat. So let's read the text together on the bottom of page 140. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It's good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp and a voice and a lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no wrong. Mizmor Shir. Mizmor Shir leyom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot LaAdonai, ulezamer lishimcha elyon, ulezamer lishimcha elyon. Mizmor Shir leyom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot LaAdonai, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. Shalom Aleichem can be found on page 142, and this talks about ministering angels, one on each of your shoulders. The good angel, the bad angel, and they both will follow you home at Shabbat, the Midrash says. And when you get home, and if the house is great and beautiful and prepared for Shabbat, the good angel wins and says, may the next Shabbat be like this one. And if you get home and the house isn't perfect, or close to perfect, right? Because no one gets it perfect, right? The bad angel says, may the next Shabbat be like this one. So we will sing Shalom Aleichem, peace be with you, O ministering angels, messengers of Most High. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Which brings us to the end of our opening set of prayers, and we begin the middle part of our service with the Hatzi Kaddish, and we rise on page 144. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad yivrach yuteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv, v'yemeru, amen. Yeheshmei Rabbah mivarach, le'alam ulal me'amaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yidromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yithaleh, v'yithalal, shemei dekudsha rihu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbichata v'nechemata, dahamiran bi'alma, v'yemeru, amen. And we continue to stay standing for our call to worship, found on page 146, the Baruch. La 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 lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. And you may be seated. Let's read together at the bottom of page 148, the translation of the Hama'ariv Aravim prayer, where we bless God for being the creator and being the one who separates day and night. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us in eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Now, the rabbis understood love as the essential quality of the divine-human relationship. And they understood love to be primarily defined by behavior. Now, God's love is expressed in giving us the Torah, an instruction on how to live. And in return, our love is expressed in the performance of mitzvot, our behavior in the world. In this way, the human and the divine are bound together for eternity. Our love song with God, Ahavat Olam, is found on page 151. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Havta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadita Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbenu uvkumenu Nasiach bechukecha V'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki heim chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Uvahem Negeh Yomam V'layla. Let us read responsively on page 151 at the bottom. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. Then this holiest of your works, and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. The word Shema means hear or listen. And when we say the Shema and via Hafta, we're instructed to speak these words when we lie down and when we rise up. This is the reason why we say the Shema twice during the day. We will sing the Shema on, beginning on page 152. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Please chant with me on page 154. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol livavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu hadivarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al livavecha v'shinatam livanecha v'dibarta ba'am v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beineinecha uv'tavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzi etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiyot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. At the bottom of page 157, let's read responsively. An interpretive version of our Song of Redemption, Mi Chamocha. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace, and then shall we rejoice as we thrill the dead, singing on the shoulders of the sea.
Please sing Mi Chamocha with me. Lie, 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 your turn. Lie, 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 lie. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nohora tehilot oseh pele. Nohora tehilot oseh pele. Malechutecha ahuvanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe ze anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai yimloch לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלו מי החזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל Baruch Ata Ga'al Yisrael. Lai, 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 lai. One more time, loud. Lie, 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 lie. So on page 161 is one of our favorite numbers to do. Let there be love, hashkivenu. And the words are probably the most telling of the ones we've sang this morning already. Let there be love and understanding among us, that peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions and live with hope in our heart, and that we may lie down in peace and rise up to do your will. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu lishalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. You keep going with the English. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu lishalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Most of the prayers in our Siddur were written by people. Rabbis and sages and scholars and mystics. However, some hold higher esteem because they're direct quotes from Torah. The Michamocha was one of those, and the other one is the next one called Vishamru. Both come from the book of Exodus, and on page 162, this is the proof text for why we here this evening, why we celebrate Shabbat. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It's a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days God made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from the work and was refreshed. Please sing along with me, Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein banei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. So you got to pay attention. Which brings us to the central prayer of our service, the Amidah, or the standing prayer. We begin with Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, found on page 164. And before we begin, turn to page 168 for a second. And you'll notice that after Atagi Bor Le'olam, on the top of 168, we now change the words to Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hagashem. Because now we're in the winter season, right? Just because it was 70 degrees today, right? we rise. Adonai tzvatai tiftach, Adonai tzvatai tiftach, ufi agid tehilatecha, ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai tzvatai tiftach, Adonai tzvatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips. Adonai, open up my lips, so that my mouth may declare your praise, so that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chazdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Ge'ula Livnei B'neihem, Lama'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mikayeh HaKol, Atah Rav le'Hoshia, Mashif HaRuach u'Morid HaGashem, Michalkel Chaim b'Chesed, Michayeh Metim b'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim v'Rofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umkayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Givurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umchayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hametim, Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom v'halu chasela, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. And we take this moment to be with our own prayers, our own meditations, or you may read the words from the page, or just take in the moment. When you're finished with your private Amidah, you may sit down. And we turn to page 177, and we read together at the top of the page. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. We come to the portion of our service where we offer prayers of healing for those who are ill. And tonight, we say these following names: Jesse Hurwitz, Harold Schrut, Jerry Franklin, Mary Franklin, Abe Zuler, Kathy Stansfield, Mitchell Gluck, Bill Gluck, Gabe Belsky Gluck. And if anyone has any other names they would like to add to this list, I invite you to say them now. Our prayer for healing in Misha Beirach is found on page 371. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Being a holy congregation, we offer a prayer for our good and welfare, found on page 376. Do I have a volunteer to read the prayer for our congregation? Yeah.
Okay. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion and prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding. May our efforts bring full fulfillment and joy.
Thank you. Thank you. And considering that Tuesday is election day, let's do a prayer for our country. Would you like to do that?
Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness. So, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry, and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness.
O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. And let us say, Amen. So, on Simchat Torah, a few weeks ago, we began the annual reading of the Torah. And the first book, Bereshit, traces the story of the creation of the world until the death of Joseph in Egypt. So this is the third portion this week. So let us recap the story up until this point. Chapter 1 was the story of creation. The creation story asks a lot of questions. For example, it says God created the world in 6 days. Well, how long was a day? It couldn't be the 24-hour day that we know now. In this chapter, the seventh day, we get the first Shabbat. And the first human, Adam, was created in God's image. Life was good in the Garden of Eden, and the world's first couple were living the good life. The garden is described as paradise. Adam and Eve had a special role in the creation story. This is where humanity begins. God gave specific instructions to them, but lo and behold, Adam and Eve didn't listen. They were coaxed to eat from the only forbidden tree in the garden. There were many trees to choose from, but they were duped by this snake. And as a result of this first attempt at peer pressure, humanity was kicked out of the garden, a consequence that has had lasting implications on all living beings for eternity. Now, we know that we shouldn't take things for granted. However, the first verse of chapter 1 requires us to make a big leap of faith, because it requires us to take God's existence for granted. The first line says, Bereshit bira Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Translated, it means, when God began creating the heavens and the earth, ... God's already there, right? It begins with God's existence. So where did God come from? Was he there from the very beginning? Probably. But that first sentence implies that he was there before the beginning. What happened before chapter 1? What was happening during this prelude to creation? Were the atoms and the chemicals that make up matter beginning to form? Was this where the Big Bang occurred? And if the Big Bang happened before chapter 1, who orchestrated it? Like all Jewish texts, this first verse of the Torah gives us more questions than answers. Now, going back to Adam and Eve, something else remarkable happens. An event that changed the trajectory of human behavior. In chapter 2, we find the evolution of shame. Once they ate that forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and bad, Adam and Eve realized they were naked. They didn't realize it before that. And as soon as they took that bite, they became embarrassed. They were kicked out of this gorgeous garden. And as a punishment, they had to work the land to survive. And as a result of that first indiscretion, man was prohibited from ever re-entering the garden. We now strive to enter the garden. And that tree has given us limits that have created our present system of values. Once you know your time is limited and realize that there are consequences that follow behavior, good and evil become very real. In chapter 4, man is evicted from Eden, and the realization that they did something wrong had an interesting effect. Suddenly, the power of choice was transferred from God to man. Free will was the new way of life. From this point on, either do the right thing and prosper, or be defiant and live with the consequences. And this rule of thumb continues today. But now we're introduced to some new characters in the story, Cain and Abel. It's here that the choice between good and evil has enormous impact. This is the first and ultimate case of sibling rivalry. Cain and Abel both brought offerings to God, but God only recognized the one brought by Abel. Now, obviously, Cain was not happy. And in the first episode of the first soap opera, which we'll call East of Eden, Cain murders Abel. As a result, God curses Cain, and he becomes a restless wanderer in order to avoid being in God's presence, because he also realized he did something wrong. Avoiding the Father was his way of dealing with the knowledge he messed up. Now, I assume he was ultimately embarrassed, just like his predecessors in the Garden of Eden. But Cain eventually finds a wife, and he has children. By the way, one which is Jubal, who is credited as being the ancestor who was the first musician in the Bible. And by the way, that one verse is the only time Jubal is mentioned in the entire book, the entire Torah. So now we're in chapter 5. And chapter 5 lists the family tree of Adam. When he was 130 years old, he had a son named Seth. Seth begat Enosh, who begat Kenan, who then came Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, and Methuselah. Methuselah begot Lamech, and Lamech had a son, Noah. And Noah was a good man who lived in troubled times. Everyone was doing corrupt deeds except for Noah. Genesis 6:9 says that Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless in his age. Noah walked with God. What made Noah righteous? Did he even know he was being judged as a tzaddik? Was there some sort of scale that tipped a certain amount in one direction or another? If you were a good person, it went that way, and if you're a bad person, it went that way? And how do we know how much we need to do in order to be good? The answer to this question lies in a quote by Reb Zushia. He said, "In the world to come, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not as good as Moses?' Instead, they will ask me, 'Why weren't you as good as Zushia?'" Rabbi Joshua Minkin writes, "Whether Noah was righteous only in his generation is less important than whether Noah was the best Noah could be." The Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, says, "Lo elecha hamlacha ligmor." You are not required to complete the task. To me, this means as long as you are the best you can be, that brings us that much closer to being righteous. Now, during the time of Noah, God was very unhappy at the direction his creation was taking. He was distraught, and the only way out was to have a do-over. In golfers' terms, he took a mulligan. However, since Noah and his family were the best of the bunch, God warned him that a great flood was going to come and destroy everything and everyone. And he instructed Noah to build an ark, loaded with his family and 2 of every animal, just enough to allow for reproduction to occur. And the group embarked on the SS Noah, the first cruise ship in history. And this cruise lasted 40 days and 40 nights. Wasn't that the number of days that Gilligan's Island, this ship was? That just came to my mind. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And these 3 men collectively repopulated the world. Now, when I'm reading this, and I come to the flood, I realize how important water is to our people. We can't live without it, first of all. Most of our body's made of it. And when our bodies lack water, we feel horrible. The flood makes me consider a very important point. Water really has a dual meaning. It was used to destroy almost everything, and yet it simultaneously cleansed the land so that we could begin again. Water becomes the ingredient of transformation and cleansing. Consider how Judaism uses water. We use it to cleanse the body of the deceased. We use it to transform ourselves as we throw away our sins at Tashlich. And religious Jews use the mikvah to ease their way from being unclean to clean. So these transformations happen throughout our history and our story. Now, at this point, when the ship docked in port, there was a rainbow to signify that the promise God made never again to destroy humankind was here. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence that the rainbow happens to be the symbol for the LGBTQ plus community, because they use the symbol as their own promise not to be marginalized, their promise never to be wiped out. Interesting relationship to the Noah story. Now, you'd think by this point the story would get better. The new people would be a better fit. But no, people kept making the same mistakes over and over again. Some things just never change. The people became arrogant, and the ultimate act of chutzpah, they built the Tower of Babel. God diversified the language of the people. What does that tell us about the importance of language and communication? Today, there are so many ways we communicate: speech, written text, tweets, instant messages, TikToks, and the list goes on and on. But the story of the Tower of Babel urges us to think about how our use of language can not only affect us, but others as well. And the story of Noah is also important because it is here that we have the first codified set of laws. God demanded that the people abstain from blasphemy, idolatry, incest, murder, robbery, and the mistreatment of animals. These laws predate the Ten Commandments, and they are collectively known as the Noahide laws. Now, like any good leader, God was very metacognitive. He was always thinking about why things were happening and what was going wrong. He couldn't figure out why these people continually chose the wrong path. So he concludes that the people need a leader. Even though God is the ultimate leader, the people couldn't relate to him because they couldn't see him or her. So God concluded he needed someone on the ground, someone who could lead by example and act as a role model. And it's here that the story of the Jewish people actually begins. Prior to Abraham, the word Jew, Israel, or any other identifying label didn't exist. So up until this point, the biblical story is mythical. There's no real way to prove any of its existence. However, with Abraham, we move from myth to history because there has been evidence that there was some identifiable leader during this time. The name of that leader hasn't been mentioned, but we can all place Abraham in that role because of that time period. Which brings us to this week's portion, Lech Lecha. The Lord said to Abraham, "Go forth from your native land and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation, I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing." Wow, what a responsibility. Abraham was to become the father of the Jewish people. But why Abraham? The text really doesn't say. However, we have a reason that there was something special about him. Man needs to be addressed by God, and we have an innate desire to be in God's grace, but the relationship can't be one-sided. Just as we need to be recognized by God, God in return needs people who are capable of responding. Believing in God is a form of mutualism. In science, mutualism is defined as a relationship between two organisms where both organisms benefit. It's the opposite of parasitism. Here is free will again. We had to choose to answer God's calling. We chose to be Jews, and we continue to make that decision today. So the story of Abraham also discusses transitioning. We all experience transitions in our lives regardless of our age. When Abraham was 75 years old, God told him to leave the land. There's a Hebrew verb, ayin vet resh, which means to cross over. Crossing over is another way of describing transitioning. And interestingly, one of Abraham's ancestors was named Eber. Guess how Eber spells his name? Ayin vet resh. It comes from the same root. It appears that transitioning is built into Abraham's genetic code. Abraham's life is a series of whys. You know that the big book, Jewish Why, right? The big blue book? The biggest question is, if he and Sarah wanted a child so badly, why would he agree to sacrifice him on the top of the mountain? I'm not sure I would be so trusting. Abraham doesn't know where his journey will ultimately take him, but he's very courageous. He had faith. He trusted that when it came down to it, God would make good on his promises. It's funny, the beginning of Abraham's story reminds me a little of Governor McKee's television commercial. Abraham was 75 years old and still living at home. He must have been terrified to leave that cozy little nest. And I can imagine his mother sitting there with the sunglasses. You know the commercial I'm talking about? We'll never know, but the one thing we can conclude is that Abraham's going forth was the beginning of our story. It's our place of origin, and it's also a place of our leaving. Even if he doesn't know exactly what's going on or why, he never stops. The journey is the most important part. He was a man seeking to fulfill his purpose. And you shall be a blessing. Blessings signify a special bond between the giver and the recipient, one which relies on trust and compassion, This portion ends when Abraham was 90 years old, and when the Lord appeared and said, I am El Shaddai, walk in my ways and be blameless. I will establish my covenant between you and me, and I will make you exceedingly numerous. You can imagine Abraham's excitement, especially when he and Sarah were having trouble conceiving a child. God continued, as for me, this is my covenant with you. You shall be the father of a multitude, and you shall no longer be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I make you the father of a multitude of nations. Then comes the covenant. You will circumcise all your males at age 8 days. And it's interesting because later on in the Bible, the term circumcision is used again, but it's applied to a different situation. Jeremiah speaks about the foreskin of the heart. I believe that means the act of circumcision, although a sign of the covenant, is also a way to remove obstacles of understanding. Having a constant reminder of the covenant allows us to always remember the choices and sacrifices that were made in our history. So when given the choice to act holy or profane, we need to choose holy. To be holy is to act as God's emissary, do his work, and complete his vision for what the world should be like. Let us use this Shabbat as a starting point. Vow to make choices that tip the scale towards holiness, making our existence full of meaning. That way we all can be like Abraham. Shabbat Shalom. So there's a song that goes along with this portion called Lechi Lach. Lechi Lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech Lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi Lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. Lechi Lach, Lechi Lach, and I shall make your name great. Lech Lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi Lach, to the place that I will show you. Lisimchat chaim, lisimchat chaim, lisimchat chaim, lechi lach, lechi lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. Let us all be a blessing. We rise for our concluding prayers. Aleinu begins on page 586. Aleinu l'shabeach le'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש Baruch Hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Tonight we remember Claire Ben Susan, mother of Rick Ben Susan, Leo Nussenfield, Diane Passon, Wendy Wurtzel, mother of Lisa Rayola, Beatrice Blackman, Solomon Nussenfeld, Aaron Lichtenstein, Jean Emma Kimball, Harriet Block, mother of Ellen Ben Susan, Dee Dee Dinah Carlin, great aunt of Beth Rabin, Robert Joel Cohen, Lena Mersman, Alan Jerry Hoffman, uncle of Deborah Darko, Estelle Gerner, Charles Blackman, uncle of E. Sybil Simon, Louis Molosky, Minnie H. Bassing, mother of Dr. Shirley Kessler, Evelyn Boren Milam, Louis Sandler, Arnold M. Dessel, father of Joan Abrams, Fanny Molosky, Bessie Israel Silverman, mother of Arlene Landesberg, Leah Brockstein, mother of Michael Feldman, Marvin Glickman, husband of Joan Glickman, Sally Roberts, mother of Amy Hirsch, Susan Klasky, sister of Joan Fandel, Sandy Klein, and Beverly Zuller, mother of Marilyn Zuller Morin and Barbara Zuller. And if anyone has a name to add to this list, I invite you to share that name and something about that person if you would like.
My uncle, Lenny, and Walter, I used to call.
We rise for the mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divra chilutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'yomechon u'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru, Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha berichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush birchata v'nechemata ta'amiran v'alma v'imru Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Oseh shalom b'mromav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. And we sanctify this evening and the Shabbat with the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, בשבת קודשו, באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen. L'chaim. You may be seated. Our closing song is on page 625, Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נעשה בחפצו כל, עזר מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, והמשילו לכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי ביצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן בעירה, ועם רוחי וגיעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. Shabbat Shalom. I will meet you downstairs. Thanks to Judy and Chris Menton for sponsoring tonight's oneg. And we'll do the motzi downstairs.